Hello and welcome to The Nerve at Night. I am your host, Maureen Callahan. We have so much on deck. We've got more developments. It's breaking like every other minute. Meghan and Harry. This one is a brutal cut. Brutal. So you're going to love it. Then we're going to talk about the latest box office bomb, which proves that this goes beyond wokeness or politics or anything. Sydney Sweeney's Oscar bait movie, Christie, bomb at the box office. We're going to talk about the continued downward spiral of network talk shows, Grammy nomination snubs, Diddy update, that criminal mind caught in prison, breaking the rules. And a lot more. Joining me to break all this down is our, we missed him last week. He was in London. Celebrity, gossip, columnist extraordinaire, Rob Shooter. If you haven't yet, go subscribe to Rob's Substack, the Naughty But Nice Substack. Then we've got your feedback. And as promised, finally, for her first appearance, my derm, Dr. Jessica Weiser, is here to answer all your questions, troublemaker questions that you guys emailed me. We're putting them to Dr. Weiser. She's got all the answers for you, okay? Like I said, it's a great show. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go. If you're like most of us, you want the best food for yourself and your family, but still you wonder when looking at a label, is this safe? How can you even tell half the time? Food labels can be so misleading. Introducing Olive. Olive is the clean living shortcut on your phone. It's 100% independent, credible, and transparent. No brand, pay to play. A simple scan on Olive looks beyond macros and marketing, and it flags ultra-processed ingredients, additives, seed oils, and contaminants. With a comprehensive database that you can trust, proof, not promises, Olive recently completed the largest independent baby food study ever. 300 plus products tested for lead and arsenic in ISO-accredited labs. Real tests, real results. Moms, has your baby's food been contaminated with lead? Scan with Olive to find out and get peace of mind. If you are frustrated by reading confusing food labels and ingredients you can't even pronounce, try Olive. Listeners of The Nerve get an exclusive 7-day free trial. Try Olive. Scan your pantry. Make sure you're feeding your family the very best. Download Olive now in the App Store. Olive, 100% independent, credible, transparent. Scan, swap, and exhale. Oh my God, I have missed this guy. It's between Rob and Mark Bowden. You know, it's like two of my and of course, Bill from Brooklyn, my brother. But these guys are amazing. Rob Shooter is back with us today, fresh off the plane from 2 weeks in London. All right, first, Rob, Meghan and Harry, we got to get to it. I just saw the latest headline. The latest headline has the Kardashians deleting photos that include Harry and Meghan from Kris's 70th birthday party held over the weekend in Beverly Hills. Why would they be doing this?
Yeah, I've been hitting the phones about this story. I can't get enough of it. First of all, that birthday party, if you're listening, Kris Jenner, where was our invitation? We should have been at that, or maybe not. But I was told by my insiders that nobody actually knew who invited Meghan and Harry.
What?
So everybody was sitting around the party thinking, who invited them? I don't think the Bezoses invited them.
The Bezoses hosted it, correct?
They hosted it, so it's at their house. They paid for it too. So
they paid for it.
They paid for the.
What did it cost you, Rob?
It must have been hundreds of thousands. Just the security bill alone. Bruno Mars performed. He cost
That's
several.
Not cheap.
That's not cheap. Remember, J-Lo wanted him for her wedding to Ben, and she couldn't get him because he was $10 million. And Jennifer was like, I ain't paying that. And so he performed, lots of security. see lots of celebrities, great food, I'm assuming, and the
And
Bezos
if anybody ate it, they're all on Ozempic. Out in East Hampton, the caterers don't even bring food anymore to parties because everyone's on Ozempic. True story.
They're all on Ozempic. But I would guess if Jeff Bezos offers to host your party, do you give him a check? Do you say, Jeff, can I pay the costs? Or, well, the Kardashians didn't do that. He paid for the party. But back to our girl Meghan. So Meghan and Harry were there. Nobody realized quite why they were there. Some people thought Oprah might have invited them, but Oprah's plus one was Gayle. So it wasn't Meghan. But then we did see photographs leak out, and now they have disappeared. Poof. But let me remind you, Maureen, Meghan has a habit of doing this. Last time she was in New York, her hairdresser, her makeup guy, took a video of her getting ready for this event and posted it. Poof, it disappeared. This is coming from the Sussexes. They do not like any unapproved images out there. They really do believe, even at a party with some of the most famous people in the world, that they're the biggest stars. I think they are deliberately difficult to prove how big a stars they are. It's like when you hear rock stars saying no blue M&Ms. The Markles, the Sussexes are just a difficult pair. And so these photographs have been removed. I know the Kardashians didn't remove them. This is not a shy family. There is nothing that Kris or Kim has off the record. And so this must have come from the Sussexes.
Well, in fairness to Van Halen, who had that famous rock and roll ride or no brown M&Ms, they always said that was to make sure that everybody was reading the fine print on the contract, which I think is kind of brilliant if that is indeed the case. But this is so, okay, I absolutely believe this. It's totally on brand with them, but there is no logical through line. So you go to this party where they've let the paparazzi in to the driveway to take photos of all of the attendees. There's photography inside. So they're photographed going in and everybody knows they went, but then they want the photos from inside removed.
It's craziness. And they won't be invited back if they were indeed invited to this party. Once again, nobody knows who invited them. But yeah, I've been to some fancy Hollywood parties. When you go to a big party and there are photographers, this is not waiters with cell phones. This is not people sneaking wedding pictures from behind the cake. This is a big Hollywood party. There were at least 3-4 roaming photographers, really good photographers. The pictures are excellent quality. These are professional pictures and they're posed. These pictures are posed by cakes. They're posed by the birthday girl. They are not sneaky pictures. So the fact they were removed is a mystery. I know from my sources it came from the Sussexes. They wanted this removed. And I should point out, which I think is fascinating too, maybe this is the reason, I don't know this, but I used to work for Jessica Simpson when she was a really big star, when she was just getting divorced from Nick Lachey. Jessica was on the cover of all the magazines, and Joe Simpson, her dad, realized that if he took the photographs of Jessica, he would make money, a lot of money. And so maybe the Sussexes are controlling their image so that only they can make money from these pictures and not the Kardashians. We know they're cheap. We know they're very, very concerned about money. But otherwise, I don't have a good explanation of why these. We've seen the pictures. They're out. They look great. They look great. I don't know why they're not picking their noses. They're not covered in cocaine and crazy drugs. They look great.
If only. Get interesting, you two. By the way, to your point about the photographers at parties like this, these are high-end photographers carrying, they have little lighting attached to their job is to make you look great. Everybody's supposed to look great. It all redounds to everybody's benefit. Number two, who's your scene stealer back there? Your little dog just made a leap.
Darby, he's a big fan of your show.
Oh, well, he seems adorable.
He's adorable.
So my theory about Meghan and Harry making yet another just onerous demand, they just can't even get invited to a party and go. I have two theories. Number one, I think there's some sort of quid pro quo going on with Kris Jenner. I think Kris got Meghan into the Balenciaga show, and I think Kris wants Harry, the big fish, around her little fetid pool. Number two, I wonder if Harry is really feeling the metaphorical boot on his neck with everything that's been going down with Andrew. I mean, Andrew's situation is only getting more and more dire and bleak to the point where he may have to flee the country. And I wonder if in his desperation to somehow get purchase back within the royal fold, he is realizing what utter mistakes they're making. The Kardashians.
I have a third theory. Can I jump in? I have a
Please
third
do.
theory. So while they were partying with the Kardashians, his brother and his father were laying reefs at the unknown
Yes.
soldier in Britain. And I think that's also part of the problem here. They shouldn't have been at that party on that date. It's a very bad look, the split screen of the service that his family is doing, and yet how much of a Hollywood star he's becoming on the other side of the screen. It is alarming, but also too, the backlash from this. If he ever wants to go back, he's hinting at that a little bit. He's got to win back the public, and partying, being out with the Kardashians while his father's honoring the fallen soldiers is outrageous. However, we know, Maureen, we've done this a long time. It's a bad story, but once you've got a photograph, it's really bad. And these photographs of him just having a swell old time, no security around him. Remember all those moans that he was worried about Meghan and security. And so they clearly lived this amazing life. They did party hop too. Sources tell me before that party, they went to Jessica Alba's party. She had a
Get out.
fundraiser. Yeah, they did two parties in one night. So they went to a party before that, and then they party hopped over to Kris Jenner's.
And you're so right about that. And he's such an idiot wearing that Remembrance Day poppy to Kris Jenner's birthday party, her 007 themed birthday party. Her daughter's arriving like oiled up in body makeup and like squeezed into beaded gown. Like it's just, and then Meghan saying she would have worn one, but she couldn't source one, even though they're all over Amazon. And the host happens to own Amazon, founder.
Do you want a
Okay.
little bit of scooper from the
Oh,
party that I love?
please, I do.
Well, insiders tell me that Meghan has got the acting bug back. She's just returned to acting, playing herself. She missed it desperately. This is something that she thinks she can excel at after
Oh,
really not being
really?
terribly successful. And
Really?
do you know the part
She
would
only
like
was
to
a
be?
bit player for what, her entire
She was always been a
career?
big player, but
Well,
she feels
Suits,
like
but
now's
yeah.
her moment. We saw Harry pitch Disney at the Lion King premiere in London to get her a job on Disney. Guess who owns the rights to James Bond? Amazon. Jeff Bezos has bought
That's
James
right.
Bond 007. She was there auditioning to be a Bond girl. That's what my sources are telling me. Meghan walked
Meghan?
in and she wants to be a Bond girl. And she thought if she pitched it, she goes right to the top, Meghan. If she went right to Jeff Bezos. And this is crazy, but there's actually some chance that this could happen. Jeff Bezos is now in charge. He can pick who is Bond. He can pick who is a Bond girl. Maybe it's going to be Lauren Sanchez. Maybe
Not
Meghan
so
Markle.
fast, Mar. Rob, I've got a theory for you. Okay. So I like it. I like it, Meghan, like auditioning to be a middle-aged Bond girl. Like, because really, what screams like sex pot than like the domestic maiden of With Love, Meghan, right? Like, pick a lane, lady. Pick a lane. But she's going to have to compete with a fellow dead-eyed wannabe actress megastar Kim Kardashian,
That's
who is 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. All's fair, the Ryan Murphy, and all anybody could talk about is how dead inside Kim Kardashian seems to be.
It's just awful. But these people keep failing up. Don't like. We're going to talk a year from now when the Bond movie is announced, Maureen. I think that they weren't the only two people at that party that were auditioning for this role. Everybody that went to the wedding, Sydney McSweeney, who was at the wedding,
Sweeney.
she wants
That's
to be
a
a Bond
Bond
girl.
girl. That's
right.
a Bond girl.
That's a Bond girl. But I'm told they were all there looking at Jeff, trying to get this role. And maybe that's why there was a little bit of friction between the Kardashians and the Sussexes. And maybe that's why the photographs were removed.
Funny. This is such great stuff. Before we move off Harry and Meghan, one other question. Are you hearing anything about she posted on Instagram the other day, oh, my holiday Netflix special is dropping on December 3rd. And then I went right over to the Instagram account for Netflix and there was no mention at all about this.
They are scratching their heads at Netflix, and this is one of the reasons Meghan is having such a difficult time with this contract. It's not only about the product. It's very important to produce stuff that people like, but it's also important within an institution like Netflix to fit in. We've all worked for big companies. They do not like a loose cannon. You can pretend to be a loose cannon. You can pretend to be a loose cannon on The Real Housewives, but when it comes to messing with Bravo, if you mess with the company, you're off the show. That is the truth of pretty much every large company. Meghan's a loose cannon. She puts out press releases. She puts out statements. They're scrambling to catch up, and it's just not worth it for them. This is another nail in her Netflix coffin.
Can't wait. I can't wait. Can't wait. We'll be reporting back. We'll take the flack as usual. I wanted to talk to you about the latest box office bomb. We touched on this in an earlier conversation, but Sydney Sweeney has a movie out. It's a story. It's based on it's based on a real person, a female boxer. It's called Christy. She transformed herself for it. She did what you need to do to win an Oscar. To quote Tropic Thunder, you either play mentally impaired or you ugly yourself up or you gain a ton of weight and then you lose it.
Nicely paraphrased.
Yeah, I'm trying to be, not get myself canceled here. But her movie tanked. And this is just one in a raft of recent films that have tanked at the box office. Leo DiCaprio's One Battle After Another tanked. The Springsteen biopic tanked. Julia Roberts tanked. Colin Farrell, Jessica Chastain tanked. J-Lo's Kiss of the Spider Woman tanked. What is happening, Rob? What does this augur?
These actors, these actresses, and I've worked with a lot of them, all want that Oscar gold. They all want that trophy, and they take on projects that they think is going to give them that award. They shouldn't. Read a good script. These movies were rotten. The reason they tanked was not necessarily the stars. They were just bad fit. Who wants to see The Rock do anything but take his shirt off
The Rock.
and run around? Yeah, that was meant to be an Oscar-winning movie too. My film insiders tell me that you make the movie and then you figure out, then you find out if it's Oscar worthy. Whenever you go into anything looking for a hit, you never get one. Friends of mine that are songwriters, they said that the hits, they could never have predicted. You write the best songs you can, you make the best movies you can, and then you see what happens with it. Putting it the other way around is just not smart. And so it doesn't matter if you're a superstar like Julia. We want good movies. Let me add to, I think the world has changed so much now that the last time I was at the cinema, the really smart crowd that want to watch those type of movies, I felt are watching them on streaming. They're not going to that experience anymore. You go to the cinema now to see Mission Impossible. You go to eat a bucket of popcorn. You go to see the Avengers. It's become like an event. And the smarty pants, the crowd that is getting older, they don't want to go out so much after the pandemic. They never came back. They all signed up to Netflix. They all signed up to their streaming services. This should have been a streaming movie. The reason they didn't want to do that is they want Oscar gold. What I think is interesting here is Netflix has bought the Paris Theatre in New York specifically to air their movie. It's a beautiful theatre, and it's just so they're eligible for Academy Awards. They put them in
they have to have a theatrical release
at least for 2 weeks, and then they move it. This should have been a Netflix movie and put it at the Paris for 2 weeks, and she could get all her awards. The Oscars are rough. I've been a few times with different stars, and they're really snobby. Like, they really are that elite that does exist, that they look down their nose at this. And I think when you try too hard, it just smells of desperation. I saw the movie. It just wasn't very good. It was sort of dull.
The other thing that's really interesting too, and this is a definite cultural shift that I don't think Hollywood is going to ever recover from. It is no longer can a movie star sell a movie, except like if you're if you're Tom Cruise and you're so co-branded with a franchise, like a Top Gun, like a Mission Impossible, everybody knows you are behind the quality control and it's an event. That is a different thing. But a Julia Roberts is no longer putting butts in seats by dint of her star power, nor is Leo DiCaprio, nor is Julia. Like, none of them are doing it.
Sandra
J-Lo,
Bullock,
sorry, I meant J-Lo, not Julia again.
Sandra Bullock, none of them are doing it. But it's not just in movies. In the world that I live in too, in the magazine world, movie stars are gone. We used to be
Yeah.
able to every week, if we didn't have a story, if there was no really good story, we always did Jen Anderson wanting
Yeah.
babies. Like it just works every single week because people can't get enough of her. It doesn't work anymore. Those staples, that Julia Roberts, the Sandra Bullocks, the Jennifer Anistons are not selling anymore. It's the narrative now. I think that it's the story rather than the celebrity. It used to be a really big star could sell a really dull story. Not true anymore. I would rather have a great story with a star I have to Google. I don't even know who they
It's
are.
so
But if
true.
the story is delicious, then I just jump in. And the movie companies should figure this out. We've figured it out as journalists. So if I'm going to spend 4 hours chasing a story, then I want people to read it.
It better
And
be a good story.
It better be,
worth your time digging.
exactly.
Yeah.
It better be a good story.
It better be a good story. So speaking of, let's talk about a journalist who seems to have missed the biggest story of her life and career under her nose. Gayle King's getting the boot at CBS.
She is.
And she, despite this being reported everywhere, is in denial about
It's in denial.
He says they love her and they love what she's doing and she looks forward to contributing further. Rob, what do you know?
I hear she's been a little bit gaslit within CBS. Like nobody,
really?
Yeah, nobody has told her the truth. They don't want to get rid of her until they find a replacement. I might know who that replacement is. So they are poking around. We'll get around to it. So they're poking around. They're looking for different celebrities. Barry, who's now running the show, Barry Weiss over there, is doing off the record meetings. I know 2 people that had drinks with her just over the last couple of weeks. So she's getting settled in now. She's going to change it into the network that she wants. What I think is interesting too, it's not just the news shows. My friend had a drink with Barry and she talked about Survivor on CBS. So she's even thinking about who she should cast on those shows.
She must be really popular over at CBS. She just got there. She's going to mess with Survivor.
She thinks it has a political bias to it, and it's
wait, does Survivor have a political bias?
It's pretty liberal. Is
it? I haven't seen it in forever.
I think so. I think that the ones that get the best edits are the ones that want to build a community and all work together. The ruthless ones are the ones that are going to put myself first. I never quite, there's a political bias to everything. Barry Weiss is onto this. I think she's kind of a genius for doing it, but I know she's doing meetings. Gayle doesn't know what's going on. Gayle, take that wig off and you listen because it is going on. You are out. She's only signed for the first 2-3 months of the year. She's out next year. Her contract expires. And it's not just her liberal bias. It's not just her friendship, her closeness with Hollywood. She was at that Kris Jenner birthday party over the weekend. It's the amount of money she earns. Mm-hmm. She earns old school money. She's earning $13 million a year, and $13 million to be in 3rd place just doesn't make any sense. If you were in number 1, if you were the number 1 show and you were making that much money, maybe it makes sense. But to be in 3rd place and to be in 3rd place for the entire decade you've been there, it's not like suddenly we're going to wake up tomorrow and Gayle's going to suddenly blast us with amazing sparkle and we've got to tune in. It's Gayle. We know who she is. We know what she delivers. It's just not enough for that money.
She's such a mediocrity. It makes me, first of all, again, this goes to show you what a moron she is. CBS gave a statement to People magazine. People magazine is so friendly historically and still to celebrities. And they said, yeah, listen, we don't want her. We've had no conversations with her about her future here, and nor do we have plans to. And this is also part of her problem, Rob. She's at the Kardashian party over the weekend with Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez, who she went into space with, wearing a gown that must have cost $50,000. Yes. On Oprah's arm. They're platonic, but she's on Oprah's arm. And this does not make her relatable to the average American who is forced to look at this stuff in the morning because they're stuck in a doctor's office or wherever.
Right. And worse too, she refuses to talk about it. If she on the show on Monday said, I went to a party and let me tell you, Harry and Meghan are weird. Beyonce had to come in through the garage. My eyes would be like this. I would watch that. She won't gossip about it. I bumped into Gayle at a party once and I sort of pitched myself. I did a very Meghan Markle here. I pitched myself to be their gossip columnist or to be their buzz. They don't like the word gossip on TV. They like the word buzz. To be their buzz guy. And Gayle looked at me and said, we don't do buzz. We do news. We do not.
She did
And I said,
not.
she did.
She
And
did
I was like,
not.
and that's the problem. People, if I want to go out and have a drink with Gayle, I want to know what is going on with you and Kris Jenner. Why is Oprah at this party?
Where's Stedman? Where'd you leave the body?
She's got all the gossip and she won't share it. So the only reason that Gayle should be at those parties is to tell you and me and the other few people that are listening to the show what happened, and she won't do it. She won't play.
She's too above it. She's too above it. She's, first of all, they don't do gossip. But she's with the Kardashians,
yes.
like the most low rent family in America since the Kennedys. Secondly, she's you're so right about that. It reminds me of the magic that was one Regis Philbin and Kathy Lee at the height of morning television. Regis would come on and he'd be like, "Here's where I was last night. I was at this party with these glittering names." And then he would always tell some story that sort of made him like the butt of the joke. Yes. But it was so well done because it was like he was giving us a glimpse into the way the other half lives. But he was also always very relatable and very humble and like, I'm really there for you. Like I'm your
eyes, I'm your ears.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's how to do it. Gayle's no fool. She knows this. She just won't do it. I don't know if she doesn't want to be judged, but for $13 million, girl, you got to do something. You earn a lot of money. It's also a bit ruthless over there now because everybody's trying to figure out who is going to replace Gayle. Norah O'Donnell desperately wants it. Nora even thinks she could. She does desperately. Her and Gayle never got along. And so when they hosted the show together, it was Gayle that literally sent her to DC. The reason she got the nightly news is that her and Gayle had a real big disagreement in the makeup room, so bad that Gayle used to get her hair and makeup done at her apartment at 3 a.m. rather than at CBS because she didn't want to sit next to Nora.
I want to see this storyline on the morning show. Do we know what the fight was about?
I think it was about hair and makeup. I think it was about who was taking too long in hair and makeup. It's always the little petty stuff. I love petty celebrities. And so the name that keeps popping up to replace Gayle. It's a big name. It's a shocking name. It's somebody that I know you love, Maureen. It is Hoda Kotb.
Rob, I must push back a little bit. I feel that the calls are coming from inside Hoda's Connecticut, her suburban Connecticut home. I think we are bored with the kids. We are Joy 101 is not taken off. I will give the Nerve some credit for that. She can't. The Today Show's sick of seeing her face. She quit. What is going to make her show is her app is a loss leader. It's got no buzz. So what's going on?
Right. No, she misses it. They always do. I had a morning show for a couple of years on VH1, and the executive producer told me the smartest thing, which was like, try and enjoy every day because everybody who loses this, and you all do, really miss it. He used to work for Rosie O'Donnell and Rachel Ray, so he knew it becomes like, it's a really fun thing to do. You earn all this money and sit and chat away, and someone does your hair and makeup.
It's a glamour job.
It's glamorous. And so Hoda misses it desperately. I think it's interesting, though, that the leaks are coming the same week that the Today Show has announced their number one again without Hoda. So since Hoda's left,
Hoda, that's not helping your cause. Barry Weiss isn't going to go hire you since you left. The show rose to number one.
They did, but let me tell you this. Hoda's cheap. Hoda's not $13 million. Hoda never got anywhere near what was reported, what Savannah got. And so Hoda you can get for a good discount. And if you plug her app at the end of each segment, when Kathy Lee got the Today Show, a producer over there told me that they got her for a steal. They didn't pay her a lot of money, but she had to sing a song every week on the show. Now, that was her contract. So every week on the Today Show at NBC News, they sang an original song that Kathy Lee wrote. And it was ridiculous and delicious and my favorite 3 minutes of television for the entire week. If Hoda says to them, you've got to promote my app, you've got to do wellness segments, if you can, then I think she'll do it for very little. Hoda wants back in TV. And as you know, I know, there's only 3 shows in the morning. The Today Show don't want her back. GMA don't want her. So the only game in town is CBS.
Listen, Rob, I just think ode to desperation is never attractive. And I think she's desperate. And I think she's yesterday's news. Okay. One other thing I want to get to you, to get with you about is Stephen Colbert has just given an interview as to what he sees his role as, as a late night talk show host, what he's there for. So he gave this interview to GQ, and he basically said his job is to tell people politically what's wrong with them and get them to think the way that he does.
That's what he said. And that's why he doesn't have a job anymore. He gave us exactly the reason why he shouldn't have a job. That is not your job. And if you think that is your job, then you should be a politician. You should do something else. You shouldn't be a TV host. He's off the air because his show costs hundreds of millions of dollars. It lost money. There's no way you can stay on the air with a show that loses money. I think people get this mistake all the time. It is a business. There's some show to it, a lot of show to it. It's money. The reason things get cancelled is not because we didn't like your haircut or what you said. You get cancelled when shows stop making money. And this show has been losing money for a really, really long time. A lot of people at CBS are about to discover this. It's not just Stephen's show. The morning show loses money. The only show that probably makes any money is Survivor. So Barry, don't touch that.
Yeah, but Barry, don't touch it.
Don't touch it. I love that show. I love that show. Although I'd love to see your dermatologist on Survivor.
You know, she would only do it if she could bring like a vat of sunscreen. She would never expose her skin to those UV rays. Same with me. One other question. That the whole Stephen Colbert thing, by the way, reminds me of Jimmy Kimmel's wife, Molly McNeary. Now, Jimmy Kimmel just came through the fire with his whole thing of getting pulled off the air, with his statements about the Charlie Kirk assassin. And so what does his wife do? She comes out and she says, hey, you know what? I've cut off every family member who I know who either voted for Trump or just doesn't think he's the devil.
Yeah,
what are these people doing?
She said it. I think she was a little bit jealous. It sounds perverse here, but I think she gets a bit jealous when Jimmy gets all this attention. She's the executive producer of his show. I know that when he hosted the Oscars, she was in charge of that. She's the boss. Like, she runs Jimmy Kimmel Inc. And I think she wanted to remind us all about that in the most ridiculous way. But there was no need for her to do that interview. She's not a celebrity. We always have to say Jimmy Kimmel's wife. I don't even know her first name. And so, like, that's a bad sign. So why are you doing this? Like, your husband just got out of the fire. Zip it. Zip it.
Zip it,
Now's
lady.
not the time. Shut up.
If there's one takeaway the culture has been giving these people, it's stop politicizing late night talk shows. Just make us laugh so we can fall asleep before we have to get up early in the morning and go to job. Most people have jobs they don't even like, or they're afraid they're going to lose due to AI, or someone like Gayle King, a mediocrity, making $13 million a year, you know?
They don't do it because it makes them important. If their jobs were just to make us laugh, then they don't feel as important as they want to feel. It's all self-absorption. They have to be important. They have to be doing real work. I laughed a couple of days ago. I love Wicked. I love that musical. I like the movie. But I saw an interview with Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, and they were just talking about how deep it is. And I was just like, say what? You've got to sing.
It's like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of like fairy tales.
It's not Schindler's List.
It's not.
Yeah, calm down. It's not important.
Oh my God. Rob, I guess where else to leave it but there? Where else to leave it but there? It's always very cathartic speaking to you. I feel like we're both having the same experience of celebrity culture.
I know it. I'm going to come to the studio, and then you're going to promise afterwards, because we tape a little later, it's drinky time. We'll go and get a couple of glasses, and I know we'll have even more dangerous stuff to tell you next time.
I can't wait. It's a date. It's a date. See you soon, my friend.
Take care.
Rob is the best. It's truly cathartic speaking to him, because he's reporting from the inside and he's telling us that everything we're seeing and hearing and feeling is right. Coming up, we have got your feedback back in a minute. Today's show is sponsored by Cowboy Colostrum. Now, colostrum is the first milk that babies receive from their mothers after birth. It's often referred to as liquid gold because it is packed with proteins, natural growth factors, and antimicrobials. 3 factors that can enhance your immune response, reduce inflammation, repair and balance gut lining, and reduce bloating. They can even make your hair and skin look amazing. Cowboy Colostrum offers the highest quality cow colostrum in the US. They don't overprocess or strip their colostrum. They leave it whole with full fat and high protein for ultimate nutrient density. It is sourced from 100% grass-fed cows here in the United States with all natural ingredients and no artificial flavors. You can add cowboy colostrum to your coffee or your smoothie. It's simple. It's easy to drink. I've tried it. I love it. You use the frother, you put it, it's great. It's very satisfying, the whole experience front to back. Now, for a limited time, our listeners get up to 25% off their entire order. Just head to cowboycolostrum.com/Maureen and use code Maureen at checkout. That's 25% off when you use code Maureen at cowboycolostrum.com/Maureen. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them The Nerve sent you. Welcome back. I'm going to start the before we get into the bulk of Troublemaker emails. I'm going to start with one that's going to lead into a piece of pop culture that I want to talk about, which is Nikki Glazer's SNL monologue, Troublemaker Lucky. Troublemaker Lucky emailed after that SNL monologue, Nikki Glazer needs a swift kick and a trip to the woodshed. She's going in the running for, the Nerve Awards, okay? She did an SNL monologue that made headlines for all the wrong reasons. We're going to take a listen to 2 bits from like a really, really lengthy bit of stand-up she did. And by the way, if there are small kids around, remove yourself or listen later. Okay, here we go. Nikki on sex trafficking.
I'm just kind of like obsessed with slavery recently because every time you go to a women's restroom, a public women's restroom, and you sit in the stall, there's always a poster on the back of the stall that's asking you if you're being trafficked. Women, we have these, right?
Never seen one, literally.
Yes. They're in every stall. They're in every world language. I mean, English is really tiny, and it's like, you wish. But it's like, men's restrooms do not have these signs. I don't know what signs you have. Maybe like, do you have signs that are like, want a slave? Like, text traffic to 6969. But it's really a big fear of being trafficked, mostly for like Gen Z girls. I have a lot of Gen Z friends that I bought, and they're terrified. And I don't relate. I'm 41. That was like not a fear of mine ever in my 20s. In my 20s, I just feared like good old fashioned rape.
I don't find that funny. And I'm going to give you my theory about Nikki Glazer. And you can take one look at the way she's dressed. It's a very try hard look. I'm like hot and sexy, right? Like I'm 41, but I could pass for 23, right? I'm a hot girl. I think Nikki Glazer suffers from a great deal of insecurity about the way that she looks, about the level of male attention she's gotten throughout the years, the level of attractiveness in any guy she was ever able to pull. I think she's had a lot of work done. And, she got really successful only fairly recently. As she said, she's in her 40s. And she, the Golden Globes, it was the Tom Brady roast and then the Golden Globes. And, typically you would think what would happen with somebody who makes it to a degree of fame that they have been striving for their whole life. They just wanted it so badly. You would think she has seen enough and had enough experiences to know that it's not all it's cracked up to be. Okay. And if you're getting to do what you love and you're growing your audience and you're being successful, that should be enough. But I think joking about being sex trafficked as a kind of sexual validation is extremely dark. And I just don't think she's talented enough to craft a joke that wouldn't land like that as a thud. And I'm going to tee up the next bit of her monologue by saying, I say this all the time on The Nerve, but I just think it constantly bears repeating, as much as we did with Kristen Bell and Dax Shepard, which we have a Troublemaker email about. When these people tell you who they are, believe them, okay? This is what Nikki's telling us in her monologue. Here we go.
I feel like it's too hard to be a mom. I have too much anxiety about it. I mean, it's hard even being an aunt for me. I was staying at my sister's house recently, and at one point I was like, I'm going to go take a shower. And my nephew comes running in. He's like, I want to take a shower with you. I want to take a shower with you. He's 18. I'm like, what's going on with his voice? Something's wrong. No. No, he was 4 and it was very cute. And my sister was like, he can take a shower with you. It's fine. He does it with us. And I'm like, okay, that's fine for you guys. But are you really okay with like an adult showering with your child? Like, maybe it's okay if you like come and supervise. And she was like, why? And I was like, because what if I molest him? Like,
You can tell like the audience didn't quite know what to do with both of those jokes. And like there had to have been like people who were being like, they have these people with these live audiences who like, oh, like this or like this, like applaud, 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 laugh, laugh, laugh. Like it wasn't. I think that is a disturbed mind. I think that's a very disturbed, dark mind at work. So good luck, Nikki, because you've got 4 bears. They may be male, but they've lost a lot more with doing a lot less. So, okay. Now on to Troublemaker email. Maureen, upon listening to Kinsey and you discuss Meghan Markle being, I refuse to say, acting in a couple of Hallmark movies. Oh, and by the by, our friend Tim, the celebrity makeup artist, is going to be on Friday's Nerve. We're not only doing our regular Hate Watch of the morning show, but he is fresh off being a hired makeup artist for the Hallmark movie cruise. And I saw him recently and I was like, let's save it. Let's save it for the Troublemaker. So he's gonna report back. Anyway, this Troublemaker, Janie, says, I must admit that I had no idea that Meghan was in any of the Hallmark movies, so I decided to watch one. I chose one called Dater's Handbook. I am not kidding you when I say I am only 25 minutes in and I am exhausted. She is insufferable, vain, arrogant, and gives an aura of self-imposed superiority. Can't wait for the cameo in whatever movie she's befouling. Okay, this one from Troublemaker Elizabeth. Subject header, New Yorker crossword 11/10/25. The New Yorker crossword. Once again, the New Yorker crossword has hit a nerve. 59 across. Painter of woman with a pearl necklace and girl with a pearl earring. Love this. Elizabeth, I would never have dared make that connection or really ever thought to. And you know what? I would probably have rejected it out of hand had we not just seen the New Yorker rip off the nerve with their mini interview. And guess who they chose for one of their first ones? Our favorite sprightly 900-year-old heroine, Sarah Jessica Parker. There is a faction over at the New Yorker watching the nerve in secret. We know it. We know it. Okay. Kristen Bell. Hi, Maureen. Your recent episode about Kristen and Dax Shepard really sent a chill down my spine. It reminded me of an incident I can't forget. Studying for a qualification in counseling, one of the seasons, she shadowed a girl who was 10 years old and having behavioral problems at school, acting inappropriately towards her classmates. On several occasions, when we interviewed her, she used vocabulary which I considered to be inappropriate for a child of that age. I noted that Kristen said that her daughter said that Dax Shepard's incredibly unhygienic bedtime habits, the daughter described them as smelling raunchy. And I thought that was really weird. That's a really weird word to use. Raunchy has a sexual connotation. Sorry, it does. And all the bots on Kristen's team who have been emailing me saying, no, that's totally normal. It's not normal for a small child to say something smells raunchy. They say it smells bad. They say it smells disgusting. Ick, ew. Typical syntax for a small child. Okay, anyway, this Troublemaker said that she and a colleague agreed that this child's vocabulary was a red flag. They investigated further. When I followed up on the case, it turned out this girl was being groomed by a family member. I'm not saying Kristen and Dax are doing that. I'm just saying I think alarm bells are going off from that house. And the family member had, part of the process had been exposing this child gradually to adult material. It progressed from there. In my opinion, just this Troublemaker's opinion, And I agree. The authorities need to take a serious look at what is going on in Kristen Bell's home before it's too late. Hi, Maureen. I love your show. Thank you. I've gotten several of these, so I'm gonna show you. I was in the grocery store listening to the show and walked right into these 2 bottles of wine. Now, I believe this brand definitely predates our show, but I didn't know about them until you guys, you troublemakers, started sending. There is a wine called Troublemaker wine, and we have to get some for our first Nerve Awards, the inaugural. Okay, hi, Maureen. Regarding Harry's baseball hat, and we revisited this on the Nerve with Kinsey on Tuesday, and his excuse that he had been invited by the owner, I am reminded of the Seinfeld episode where, despite sitting in the Yankees owner's box, Elaine refused to remove her Orioles hat and was subsequently kicked out of the game, a fictional character with more spine than the Brits. This is from a Canadian troublemaker who would like to remain anonymous because of what follows. I am a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the RCMP. We have a long history with the Crown and the Queen. Harry's behavior infuriates me. As a member of this organization, as a Canadian, and as a fan of the monarch, I wanted you to know that Ryan Reynolds' father was a police officer with us, but his brother is also a member. I believe his brother is still serving the public and working in BC. I will try to confirm. Please get back to us. And Troublemaker, who I'm keeping anonymous, you know exactly who you are. Please get back to us as well as to why there has been no further movement on Ryan's admission that he burned down his elementary school. Burned it down to the ground. We know there is no statute of limitations on arson. And why has no pressure at least been brought to bear on Ryan to reimburse that school district, that town, with interest at the very least? Ryan thinks he's got bigger problems, but you know, the Nerve exists for a reason. Okay, finally, from a troublemaker who goes by Larky, Bill Maher does it again. We are going in on this on Friday's show. Maureen, Cheryl Hines is on Club Random this week. You know, I call it the blue light room. You don't enter Bill's seedy man cave lair without a blue light to detect all the bodily fluids that have been emanated in there over the years. Maureen, Bill admits to Cheryl Hines of back in the day masturbating before his daily show. What an absolute creeper. To the wood chipper again with this complete ghoul. And by the way, this validates what I remembered reading. Actually, I think I read from the exact article on one of our very earliest shows. Bill Maher, back when he was hosting Politically Correct on ABC, the story was, and that the story is that it persists to this day because, you know, a leopard doesn't change spots. Before any given show, he gets his way of amping himself up is to jerk off to his own awesomeness. And this is before going out and conducting the show. And that most guests would wind up in the know because, of course, there's a whisper network about this. Like, don't shake Bill's hand. Anyway, that does it. That does it for viewer feedback, audience feedback, troublemaker feedback. Now, as discussed, we are gearing up for our inaugural Nerve Awards. They're going to begin streaming in December. We want your opinion. By the way, Paul from New Zealand, we set out the call on Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, Nerve Central had multiple options for graphics for the Nerve Awards. Paul, you are a hero, okay? And we love you. Anyway, we want your suggestions. Who should we nominate? What categories should we have? Who do you think is a runaway winner / loser? You know, it's two sides of the same coin. Send all of your thoughts to us. You know, you can email me, Maureen at devilmaycaremedia.com, DM me at Maureen Callahan Writer on Instagram or at The Nerve Show. Next up. Oh my God, I've been so excited for this. So excited. My dermatologist, the brilliant Dr. Jessica Weiser is here, and she is taking troublemaker questions, running the gamut. You guys, I can't wait for this. See you in a minute. It's been over 16 years since the federal minimum wage was raised to $7.25. Company productivity in that time has doubled. Has your wallet? 1 in 5 Americans can't even qualify for a basic credit card. The system is broken. We all know it. And everyone deserves access to decent housing, transportation, and financial stability. That's where Kickoff comes in. Kickoff helps you build credit fast with affordable plans starting at just $5 per month. No hidden fees, no interest, just on-time payments that get reported to credit bureaus and help you grow your score. Users with credit scores under 600 points saw an average increase of 84 points in their first year. With premium plans, you can even build credit with the rent you're already paying. Only positive payments get reported. It is so easy to get started. You sign up in minutes from your phone. No credit check, no hassle. Over 1 million users and hundreds of thousands of 5-star reviews make Kickoff the #1 credit builder on the App Store. Start building credit today and get your first month for just $1 at getkickoff.com/Maureen. That's getkickoff.com/Maureen. You must sign up via getkickoff.com/Maureen to activate this offer. The offer applies to new Kickoff customers first month only. It's subject to approval, offer subject to change, average first year credit score, impact of positive 84 points, Vantage score 3.0 between January 2023 and January 2024 for Kickoff credit account users who started with a score below 600, who paid on time, and who had no delinquencies or collections added to their credit. So one of the questions I get most often in my inbox, ever since I talked about what treatments and tweakments I get from my genius dermatologist, Dr. Jessica Weiser in New York City, has been about skincare and has been about how do I find a good dermatologist? How do I know what to do, when to do, how much of it, what works, what really doesn't. And so I saw Dr. Weiser very recently and said, "You are our dream guest at the Nerve. Would you consider coming on?" And she said, "Absolutely. Absolutely." And so we solicited from you. We said, email us, DM us, send us your questions about both skin and hair. If you're a woman, if you're a straight man, if you're, whatever, we're going to answer all of it. Today, we welcome Dr. Jessica Weiser. She's a board certified dermatologist who specializes in cosmetic and procedural dermatology. She is the founder and medical director of Weiser Skin MD. She is an assistant clinical professor of dermatology at Columbia University. And she also teaches surgical and cosmetic techniques to dermatology residents at Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center. Dr. Weiser also has numerous publications in peer-reviewed dermatology, surgery, and medicine journals. And trust me, medical journals, if you are lucky enough to get an appointment with Dr. Weiser, take it. Welcome, Dr. Weiser. I'm so happy to see you on the Nerve.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, it's our pleasure. I cannot tell you, when we were pulling this together, I have a stack of questions. People are dying to hear from you. So we're going to get into some specifics and then maybe some generals. You look incredible, by the way. I normally never see you normally we're in an office setting,
I was going to say, normally I have a mask on my face in the office.
This is yeah, exactly. So your skin is your own best calling card. Okay, here we go. Hi, Maureen. My problem is with depressed scars that cause me serious self-confidence issues to the point that I never wear my hair up and I let it drape over my face as much as possible. These scars are a result not of acne, but of acids that were not applied properly, specifically TCA, I'm not sure what that is, at my own hand 10 years ago. I have seen very little improvement since beginning laser treatments 6 in the past year. I'm wondering what my options are for the greatest shot at improvement.
So let's start with what TCA is, because I think that's probably important. So TCA is something called trichloroacetic acid. And TCA is used as a medium depth chemical peel. And so when we have patients coming in for certain skin concerns, sometimes we will use TCA very selectively, very carefully to try and remedy some textural issues with the skin. But it is a pretty aggressive acid and you can actually cause real damage with it. And so the idea of someone doing it themselves makes me a little bit uncomfortable just off the bat. These are professional grade acids and they can be very aggressive. When you apply TCA, what it does is essentially peels away the entire surface layer and part of the second layer of skin. And so when you're getting into that second layer of skin, that's where we talk about creating scars. So we've all done it. You know, you fall and scrape your knee and you end up with a big white scar on your knee and the edges kind of heal in really nicely and the center looks really bad. And you're like, well, the whole knee scraped. Why does the center look so bad? And that's based on the depth of the injury. And so when you injure the skin deeper, you create more scar tissue. And so what I would say in terms of trying to fix this really depends on the kind of laser that you're having. So you can have 6 clear and brilliant lasers and nothing would happen for textural scarring. You could have 6 redness lasers or pigment lasers. You could have very, very low dose laser called Fraxel, which is a different kind of resurfacing laser. But the truth is, when you're looking at deep scars, you need to do a combination of different modalities. So oftentimes when patients come in with really deep textural scars, sometimes from acne, sometimes from other issues, what we really want to address is we want to address the depth of the scar. You want to start to create little micro injuries from below and start to sort of controlled wound the skin to help new skin cells form and start to heal in some of that scar tissue. But when you wound from below, you can actually help release some of those scars and then they kind of bounce back up and you get a much better textural improvement. And so I think it's just going to depend on the modalities of treatment that they're choosing. And sometimes using 2 different modalities together can give much better results than a single one by itself.
So there is hope for this patient who is so self-conscious that she's wearing her hair down all the time and worrying about the lighting in any given room. Dr. Weiser, how does a patient like this find the right dermatologist who is going to know how to attack it the way you just described?
So I think the key is making sure that you're seeing somebody who is really a laser expert and doesn't have one device in their office that they use for everything. In my practice, I have 20 different devices, and so we can really cover a very broad range of different skin concerns. And sometimes patients say, well, I have one laser, I can treat everything. And the key is that sometimes that is just either an underpowered device or a device that has lots of different hand pieces that don't do quite enough. And so look for someone who is, published, look for someone who is, on faculty at an academic center. Often that kind of affiliation gives some credo to what they're doing, but also look for people who have a really broad range of devices and offerings in their practice, because one single device isn't going to get you the full result.
It's so true. And I mean, I go to you for lasers and you always talk to me about, no, you don't need this. That would be way too intense. Like, we're going to do this. You're very, 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 shrewd and strategic about how you treat any given patient. Here's another one from Troublemaker Jenny. I have a history of melanoma and am considered high risk. I have a lot of sun damage on my face. I have been told because of this risk, I cannot get IPL, Fraxel, or any type of lasers because I can laser off too much of the early warning signs of precancerous lesions. On the flip side, I've also read the exact opposite and that someone like me should get lasers as a preventative. What is the truth?
So the key here is that there are certain kinds of lasers that are amazing for prevention. And there have been some studies in the past couple of years showing specifically that the 1550 nanometer Fraxel, which is not a Fraxel that treats the surface for brown spots, but the track Fraxel that kind of gets a little bit deeper, can actually be really wonderful at helping to prevent or decrease the frequency of skin cancer in patients who have a lot of sun damage and are prone to skin cancer. So not melanoma specifically, but the 2 more common skin cancers called basal cell and squamous cell. And so we actually do encourage these patients to have non-ablative resurfacing procedures and to not go with things like IPL. We don't want to just peel away pigment on the surface. What we really want to do here is we want to actually get underneath the surface and create what we call microthermal zones, where we're creating these little tiny controlled damage spots under the skin. And what that's allowing the skin to do is create new fresh skin cells to replace some some of the damaged cells and slowly turn over and reduce the risk for future skin cancers. So I think this person could be a great candidate for something like a Fraxel 1550 without doing something like an IPL that's just taking away that surface red and brown.
Phenomenal. Okay, please keep my name anonymous. This is a straight man with a manly job who has a question for you. I started to lose my hair at the age of 16. I am now 27. It was the most painful and humbling experience of my life thus far. I even had a doctor tell me that I should get a wig at 16. I took Accutane at age 15, 16 for acne, and it depressed me more than I thought I could handle. Could this be the cause of the hair loss, and what, if anything, can I do?
So Accutane and hair loss are not directly linked. And so could it be an exacerbating factor? Possibly, but most likely this is some form of a genetic hair loss. We have patients who go on Accutane all the time who have temporary shedding, but they always regrow their hair. We really don't see significant long-term issues with hair loss and Accutane specifically. And so most of the time when patients start to lose their hair that young, what we usually find is that there is some underlying medical issue. Sometimes these are what we call scarring hair loss conditions, where we actually see the hair follicles replaced with little fibrous tracts or scars, and then the hairs cannot regrow. And so what this person should do is this person should find a hair expert, and most major cities do have a great hair expert. New York has many, and have an actual small biopsy of the scalp. So we take a little cookie cutter sample. It sounds really graphic and gory, but it's actually not painful. We numb up the scalp. We take about 4 millimeters of tissue and we send it to the lab. And under the lab, they can look at under the microscope and they can determine exactly what's happening in those hair follicles. So there are two main categories of hair loss: what we call non-scarring hair loss, which is generally treatable and often reversible. And then there is scarring hair loss, which is usually not reversible. And so the key with scarring hair loss is trying to diagnose it really early and to try and get ahead of it to prevent it from getting worse. But non-scarring hair loss has a lot of treatment options out there. And the idea is identifying it, figuring out what it is, and then proceeding according to the type of hair loss appropriately. And so I think that finding an expert would be his first step. And we can go, and certainly you can go from there, but there is definitely a pathway forward.
I love this. Dr. Weiser, my 19-year-old daughter has chronic, horrible acne, and it is causing her extreme anxiety and misery. She has seen docs who recommend, I'm going to struggle with this,
spironolactone.
Thank you.
Spironolactone. Got you.
Thanks, Dr. Weiser. And birth control with little help so far. She is nervous about taking Accutane. Does your derm expert have any other ideas?
So acne, chronic severe acne, is very challenging. The only other idea besides Accutane, so Accutane gets a really bad rap and people are very frightened of it. There are two ways of taking it. I'll get into that first, and I'll tell her about some alternatives. But the two ways you can take Accutane are the classic way, which is taking full dose Accutane, meaning 1 milligram per kilogram of body weight taken daily. So let's say you have a patient who's 130 pounds. We're putting them on 60 milligrams of Accutane, and they're taking 30 in the morning and 30 at night, usually for about 6 months. And most of the time that reaches a nice total dose, and they most of the time, we say about 70 to 75% of the time, are cured from their acne or at least dramatically improved. That is the classic way to take Accutane. And the problem is that a lot of patients complain about dryness. People complain about chapped lips, sun sensitivity, all kinds of just daily issues. You can't drink, it can affect the liver. And so what we find with Accutane is that a lot of us have adopted a more modern approach where we actually dose it at a very low dose. And we have patients, instead of taking 60 milligrams a day, we often actually now have patients taking 20 milligrams a day. And so you take it for a lot longer, but you're really limiting the side effect profile. And it's so much easier for people to handle. And so, for example, that would be one alternative that would be worth a discussion, just to say, is there a way to take less Accutane for a longer period of time to minimize some of the side effects? The alternative to Accutane is really some of the newer lasers. And there's 2 lasers on the market right now for acne, one which is definitely the easier to tolerate and one which is a slightly more aggressive laser. And the first one that came to market was a laser called AVI Clear, AVI Clear. And AviClear is essentially a laser that targets the sebaceous gland. And what we know about acne is that acne is an inflammatory disease of the sebaceous gland, or the oil gland in the skin. And so much like Accutane targets those glands, this laser actually targets the glands, and treatments are done spaced a month apart. 3 sessions is recommended, and then we wait 6 months. And for most patients, we are seeing significant clearing in their acne from the laser. And so that is certainly something to look into. The slightly more intensive version is a laser called a Cure. It's not a device I offer in my practice just because it requires injected numbing into the face. And so it can become a lot of swelling, a lot of bruising, a little bit more downtime. But AviClear is quite easy to do. A treatment only takes about a half hour, and there's really almost no downtime at all.
And by no downtime, this is the lasers that I typically get with you. You mean you walk right out of the office, you look like maybe you took a little bit too much sun, but nobody would ever know you had like a major intervention just done in an office. You're good.
Exactly.
Hi, Dr. Weiser. I am 48 years old and have under eye hollows, sunken tear troughs, which make me look worn out and tired. Now she's asking how she can improve this area without fillers, but I just want you to come at this, Dr. Weiser, with your best answers, because I think there's a misconception out there that there's nothing you can inject under the eyes to solve this problem.
So lots of different things that you can do about under eye hollows, but there is not a cream on the market that is going to fully erase an under eye
Thank
hollow.
you for saying that.
It
Thank you
doesn't
for
exist.
saying that.
I think that there is such a big misconception that, you're going to use an eye cream with caffeine, or you're going to use an eye cream with, hyaluronic acid, and it's going to somehow replace the lost fat pad under the eye. It doesn't work. It doesn't happen. Patients are super frustrated by the whole process. I've tried 40 eye creams. Nothing has helped. Of course not. The real, answer here is surgical versus non-surgical, and non-surgical is what I do. And so the idea of what can you inject under the eye? There's a couple of options now, and certainly the most routine that people still have done, if you're a good candidate, not everyone is a good candidate, but if you're a good candidate, small quantities of a hyaluronic acid filler injected under the eye can be fantastic. It has to be for the right person. There's certainly going to be patients who are not good candidates for filler. Some people have a lot of puffiness or swelling underneath the eyes. We don't like to put filler in those people. But if you have a true hollow and a very demarcated sort of bone line that we can follow, and you don't have a lot of swelling or puffiness, filler can be magical. It literally just makes you look rested. I always joke that I tell patients who are good candidates, it's going to make you look like you've been sleeping for 2 weeks. You wake up from a beautiful 2-week nap and you look incredibly refreshed.
I do this with you. And as you predicted or said, because you're the expert, when I first began doing it, you said, the more you do it, the less you're going to need it. So you may start off getting 2 or 3 treatments a year, and then you're going to space them out. It'll probably be like 8 to 9 months because the body learns how to sort of retain a lot of that filler.
So the body does hold on to filler. And we've learned this, recently over the last, 5 to 10 years, that it doesn't go away 100%. And in an area like the under eye, in a good candidate, that's wonderful. And so what we find is that, I would say even in your case, we just space it out more and more, but you look consistently rested. Other things that are nice to think about when people go, I really, really don't want filler. I really feel, morally opposed to it, or whatever it is. Everyone has their, their own shtick, as we say. But people have their own things that they're bothered by. Things that you can think about, a series of PRP or platelet-rich plasma for some patients can improve the skin quality and can give a little bit of sort of a plumping underneath the eye, not quite as precise as using filler. And we also now have something called PRF, or platelet-rich fibrin, or platelet-rich fibrin matrix, which is sort of a gel that is composed of products from your body directly. So it's platelets and growth factors and fibrin that we draw out of your bloodstream and spin down in a centrifuge and then re-inject under the eyes. So sort of what people consider more natural filler.
I feel like that procedure should be named after Keith Richards. We're going to have our producer Marlena come in and ask you her question in one moment, but I wanted to ask you about the relatively new phenomenon of younger and younger women getting facelifts, and what you think of this, what the potential pros are, the cons are, how long a good facelift will last. And let's say if you begin at 30 or 35, how many facelifts you're looking at down the line if you want to maintain.
So what I think is really important to understand about a facelift is that there should be some kind of criteria on which you have enough laxity, there has to be some standard, because in theory, you could do a facelift on every single person on the face of the earth. I mean, the same way that, patients say, well, should I start Botox before I've ever had a wrinkle? No, when you start to get little fine lines, we start to cross a threshold and say it's an appropriate treatment. The same thing applies to a facelift. There are non-invasive treatments that can yield excellent collagen stimulation, excellent elastin restoration, and give us essentially a nice long track so that we're supporting the skin and we're allowing it to, sort of slow down or sort of abort some of that aging process. And so going straight to surgery, let's say you've lost 100 pounds and you have sudden onset, really severe laxity, I could understand why you might need a facelift, but that is very, very rare circumstance. And so this idea that people are getting facelifts in their 30s, to me, is really premature. And I think that there's a lot of controversy out there in the aesthetic community where a lot of surgeons are saying that, lasers and energy-based devices shouldn't exist at all. They serve a really beautiful purpose. And I think that, a facelift should be reserved for a certain kind of person who really needs surgical intervention. Generally, what we say, there's two kinds of facelifts that are predominantly popular in the world right now. One is called the SMAS facelift, which is sort of an older technology. It gives a slightly more subtle lift than the sort of newer technologies. And so patients who want a more subtle lift, but do want to improve the line of the jawline, or they want to lift sort of the lower face, can get a subtle lift with a SMAS lift. For patients who have severe laxity or who want a more drastic lift, people are now referring to what's called a deep plane facelift. And so we usually say a SMAS lift in most people lasts about 10 years. A deep plane facelift can last 15 plus. But really, the truth happens. We continue to age even after we get a facelift. And so having a facelift does not stop the aging process. Collagen breaks down. We live in a world with UV and pollution and free radicals and oxidation, and aging continues to happen. So you are not going to look 30 forever because you had a facelift at 30. You are going to continue to age from that same baseline.
And just before we move on to Marlena, can we talk a little bit about, we're seeing this in faces that we know, where we're seeing an effect where mouths seem to be stretched out, where the lips, I asked you about this because it seemed like it was filler, but you said, no. Like, I think it's surgical where you're seeing lips sort of, they end at like the end of the eye. Like, what is that procedure? And, would you recommend it at any point?
So there are a couple of surgeons out there doing what they call a scarless facelift, and they're essentially not removing skin. Part of a facelift is actually literally taking the skin, cutting in front of the ear, and removing some of the skin from the face. And that's why there is a surgical scar, because they need to go inside the face. So these scarless facelifts make a very, very tiny incision, and they essentially go in and lift the deeper tissue and sort of pull it back without removing the skin. And sometimes what ends up happening is you end up kind of catching the corner of the mouth and pulling it laterally. And what it does is it splays the mouth really wide on the face, and it can be very distorting looking. And so usually that very wide mouth is often the sign of either a not great facelift or sometimes a scarless facelift, where they don't really have full access and full visibility under the skin surface like they do in a standard facelift.
Got it. Okay, we're going to bring Marlena in, who has a couple of questions for Dr. Weiser. Producer Marlena, ask away.
Okay, I have a few questions. One, does microdermabrasion work for scarring or anti-aging?
So there's two different procedures. Microdermabrasion is essentially just a procedure that pulls away dead skin cells. And so microdermabrasion primarily works for decongestion. So patients who have a lot of blackheads and skin congestion, sometimes people complain of little black dots on their nose called sebaceous filaments. We like microdermabrasion for that purpose primarily. When you think about scarring and anti-aging, you really need to get into the deeper layers of skin. And there's a very sort of old school technique called dermabrasion, where you actually dermabrate or peel away sort of little bits of skin, and it makes the skin very red and very raw. And it's not done very often anymore. Most of the time when people are doing dermabrasion now, it's because they don't have resurfacing lasers, but most of that dermabrasion, the more aggressive form, has been replaced by laser resurfacing. And so microdermabrasion is a really nice sort of skin pick-me-up, but you're not going to see drastic anti-aging benefits from just microdermabrasion alone.
Okay. My biggest issue is my eyebrows, and I think that they go down. Okay. And I think I've been told by 2 dermatologists that I need an eye lift and that I can't accomplish what I want with Botox.
Okay.
On the sides.
Yep.
Just a little bit of a lift.
So I think that you probably could get a little bit of a lift. Everyone has different anatomy, and I haven't injected you, so I'm not totally sure. But there is a muscle, essentially part of the muscle that encircles the entire eye, called the orbicularis oris. And the orbicularis oculi. I apologize. Orbicularis oris is around.
I wouldn't know the difference anyway.
It's okay, but somebody will, and I'll get called out for it. So I'll correct myself. So the orbicularis oculi is a muscle, and it runs in an entire circle all the way around the eye. And it actually pulls down on the eyebrow a little bit. And so the idea with Botox is that if we can put tiny little microdroplets of Botox into the lateral part of the eyebrow, just underneath the brow, essentially, what happens is we weaken the muscles that pull down, and it allows us to elevate the tail of the eyebrow a little bit. And this works to differing degrees on differing patients. Some patients get an amazing lift, some patients get a subtle lift, but it does generally help a couple of millimeters on everybody. So certainly something worth trying. If it doesn't work enough, you can always step up to something more intense, but I definitely think it's an easy first step.
And may I just say before your next question, Marlena, Dr. Weiser, when you say a couple of millimeters, when it comes to the face and adjustments on the face, a millimeter is a huge impact, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So, when you think about millimeters in life, you're like a millimeter of fingernail, you're like, whatever. A millimeter lift on your eyebrow can actually make an appreciable difference.
Oh, I believe it. I just want it to happen at this point.
Yeah. Another thing to think about, just going back to your eyebrows, just to throw out one other idea, is that there is a treatment on the market called Soft Wave. It's been really hyped up by, the Kardashians of late, because they've figured this out and realized that it's a really effective ultrasound-based collagen stimulating device. And it actually has an FDA approved indication for brow lifting. And so we can actually use the ultrasound technology over the brow bone and up the forehead. And we are accomplishing anywhere between 2 and 4 millimeters of eyebrow lift using completely non-invasive ultrasound technology as well.
Wow.
So
and that
just
lasts?
another food for thought.
And that lasts?
Repeat it once a year.
Once a year. Okay. And the other question I have is the lines on my upper lip. I've had a lip flip. I've had hyaluronic acid in my lips to kind of plump up this, but it's not as effective as I would like it to be. So what would you recommend?
So the treatment of those upper lip lines, people call them all kinds of things. I've heard it referred to as a shower curtain. I've heard it referred to as a barcode. I've heard it, people call them smoker's lines. The idea there is that as we age, we start to lose the superficial fat that separates the skin from the underlying muscle. And if you think about it, the muscles that work the most on your face are the ones around the mouth and the ones around the eyes. And so if you constantly contract that muscle, what ultimately happens is the skin starts to bind down to the muscle. And so every time you contract the muscle, you're contracting the skin. And so the things that we like to do here are twofold. There's laser resurfacing. Again, I use a device that's an ablative resurfacing, meaning it actually takes away some of the surface of the skin. And sometimes we even use things called microcores, where we actually remove teeny tiny little 0.17 millimeter samples of skin and resurface that area. Or there's actually a certain type of filler that we can use that's a very, very small particle hyaluronic acid that you can actually put directly into the line. So not necessarily into the lips to enhance the lip proper, but directly into the skin above the lip and sort of create this almost sort of airbrush-like effect from these tiny microdroplets of filler.
Okay. I will try that. And then just tell me what I need to do for my neck. And then I will let you.
And that is, and then, yes. And we have gotten questions. I have one here also. My question is, what can you do for your neck without surgery? I am 66 and my neck is much worse than my face.
So it really depends on how intense the laxity is. We typically say from mild to moderate laxity. So Mariana, you're a great Marlena, sorry, you're a great candidate because you don't have a lot of laxity. When we start to see that the neck hangs or that there's a lot of skin laxity, we find that really surgery is the only option. But before that, so like for you as an example, there's a couple of different treatments that I like to use on the neck. I'm going to use it again because I do like it. Soft Wave is wonderful for lifting in the neck. We typically do 2 treatments. We separate them about 3 to 6 months apart. And what we find is that we actually relieve some of that creepiness and some of that skin laxity that develops in the neck. And it works really beautifully. I treat my own neck with it. I love it. I think it makes a huge difference. And so that's helpful. I also love to put Botox in something called the platysma bands. So as we get older, there's a muscle that runs from our jawbone to our collarbone. And when we're really young, it's like a sheet of tissue paper and it sits really beautifully. And you look at a young neck and you're like, it's gorgeous. It's perfect as it is. And as we get older, that muscle starts to form little bands and little gaps. And those bands start to form these sort of areas that pull down on the skin and sometimes pull down on the jawline. And so we frequently will put little drops of Botox into the neck, relax those muscles, and the whole thing kind of tucks underneath really beautifully. So those are 2 things I do all the time. And I think that it actually can make a really nice difference and also really save off surgical procedures till, a later stage, if ever.
Sounds good. I would like to make an appointment. And when I walk out of there, Dr. Weiser, I would like to look like this.
Dr. Weiser makes everyone look like this is why I love her so much. She makes you look like your best self. She's not out to make anybody look like somebody they've seen in a magazine. You walk out of there feeling much more refreshed and confident in yourself because she is, unlike most genius doctors, she also has an incredible bedside manner. She's an artist and she knows how to make your face the best face it can be for you. That's why I love her. So thank you, Marlena, for coming on in and asking. I'm going to book my next appointment with you right now because I think you're going to be much busier than ever. Thank you so much, Dr. Weiser. We'd love to have you.
Thank you for having me. This was a pleasure.
We'd love to see you again. Thank you so much. That does it. That does it for this edition of The Nerve at Night, but we will be back on Friday with a full slate, okay? If you haven't already, check out our Substack. Go over to thenerveshow.substack.com and be sure to subscribe for all the party that's going on over there. It's only like $5 a month. And, it also helps the show continue to grow. Then also we've got the Nerve merch. Grab something for yourself, pick something up for a fellow troublemaker or someone you're looking to bring over to our side of the street. Shop thenerve.com. We are working on our second batch for the holiday season. Also, The Nerve is now available on Meghan's podcast playlist every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern on Sirius XM channel 111, the Meghan Kelly channel. We will see you back here on Friday for a full episode of The Nerve, where you will never guess what we're about to say next.